Kenya has said it is committed to intensifying its cooperation with Germany. It noted that the new partnership will lean more towards environmental conservation. President William Ruto said this will entail climate protection, assistance in developing climate-compatible energy systems and adapting to the consequences of climate change. He made the remarks last night during a dinner meeting hosted by the Justek Afrika Stiftung and the German Bundestag in Berlin.
As a bastion of democracy, we enacted one of the most progressive constitutions in the region that provides for devolved government structure. The decentralized governance structure of 47 county governments enjoys a large measure of autonomy in public expenditure management and has also enhanced public participation and inclusion in governance. Our democratic space also accommodates diverse shades of opinion, namely from religious and faith-based organizations and the ever-vibrant civil society groups. Similarly, Germany has robust, long-standing and time-tested democratic credentials, and it is therefore important for our two countries to benchmark and learn best practice in terms of building strong institutions and creating synergies and linkages for collaboration among our institutions. I am glad to note that recently 3 parliamentary committees from Germany visited Kenya in October 2022, November 2022, and February this year. Such engagements should be encouraged for experience sharing. We should perhaps move beyond institutions to vouch for more people-to-people contacts and exchanges. State-to-state relations depend on amity between the people. It is my hope that Kenyans and Germans will continue to deepen mutual understanding and friendship so as to provide a better social foundation and public opinion atmosphere for the long-term development of our bilateral relations. Honorable members, Kenya is an anchor for stability, security, and democracy, not just in our region or on this continent, but across the globe. Kenya considers Germany a reliable ally, and this year, our two countries will be commemorating 60 years of bilateral cooperation since the establishment of our diplomatic relations. I am therefore looking forward to host Chancellor Olaf Scholz during his official visit to Kenya later in May as part of our series of activities to commemorate our 60 years of diplomatic relations. In August last year, Kenya held its elections, which were free, fair, and credible, and led to a peaceful transfer of power, and this is a clear manifestation of our democratic credentials. You can, with certainty, predict what the government of Kenya will look like after every other election. The election cemented our strong position as a nation committed to the universal values of freedom, equality, and democracy, and underscored our determination to remain a stable, peaceful, open society governed under the strong institutions that safeguard and advance the rule of law and respect for fundamental rights and freedoms. This commitment is non-negotiable, and there should be no misunderstanding concerning our resolve to proceed forward along the path to become a model of a secure, competitive democracy, enjoying sustainable development and shared prosperity. Germany, for example, allow me to use Germany, maybe have access to finances at 0.5%, at worst, maybe 0.1%. That is like 100 times more than Kenya accesses development finances. And if that be the case, if one country is accessing development finances 100 times much more expensive than the other, it means the international financial system is rigged against some countries. And therefore, it's necessary for us to have a conversation as to how do we have a fairer, not one that favors Africa, just a fairer financial system that treats everybody equally. That way, we can be able to get many of our countries that are currently in debt out of debt. And if you imagine a country that accesses financial resources 100 times more, and you compound it with the effects of climate change, you can see the amount of risk some countries are facing. So again, we need friends, we need voices, and I am sure that some are listening to me this evening to help us make the case.
He pointed out that Kenya is Germany's most important trading partner in East Africa. However, the president noted that there are challenges impeding Kenya-Germany trade. He listed them as a narrow product range, no value-added exports, value disparities, use of subsidies distorting pricing and competitiveness, and high standards set by the European Union for agricultural products. He said Kenya is an economic hub in the region with the most developed business and financial services sector, accessible transport and communication connectivity, and diverse human resource capacity.
Kenya is an economic hub in the region due to its geographical location and proximity to East and Central African countries. We have the most developed business and financial services sector, accessible transport and communication, diverse human resource capacities, and is at the center of a wide and expansive market of the 5 countries in the East African region with a population of 135 million people. Kenya is also a member of the Common Markets for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, a free trade area having a population of 430 million people. This presents a huge market for locally produced goods. Kenya has also ratified the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, ACFTA, which is expected to deliver continental-wide market embracing 54 countries with a 1.3 billion population and a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. What am I saying? I'm telling you as members of parliament and as our partners in Germany that you have a huge opportunity in Kenya because you not only are not looking at the Kenyan market of about 55 million people, but because we have concluded the trade relationship between COMESA, EAC, and SADC, which brings together a population of 720 million people. That is now a market that is available out of Nairobi, out of Kenya. And because we have also ratified, and it's already come into force, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that brings together 54 countries, a population of 1.4 million people, and a GDP of $3.4 trillion, you actually have a huge market. Do not be discouraged by what happened 130 years ago in Berlin, when the African continent was shared amongst various countries. We have since corrected that. We have now, we don't have to worry about that. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area has consolidated the whole continent into one trading bloc. And that trading bloc is available for German business, German technology, German investment into the African continent. Kenya has had excellent development cooperation with Germany in the energy sector. The ultimate goal of our endeavor in this sector is to achieve an environmentally friendly, cost-effective, and reliable energy supply in the country, focusing on geothermal, solar, hydro, and wind power. German Development Corporation, GDC, is partnering with the private sector to promote renewable energy technologies and energy-efficient measures. GIZ has also carried out a feasibility study on green hydrogen prospects in Kenya. We therefore want to intensify our cooperation, especially in the field of climate protection, assistance in developing climate-compatible energy systems, and adapting to the consequence of climate change. Allow me to explain here what I think a win-win relationship between Kenya and Germany would look like. A lot of our geothermal exploitation and harnessing of resources around renewable energy is done with German technology and German investment. The best outcome of a win-win relations is how to bring German technology to exploit green energy resources in Kenya to support green industrialization. I think that would be the consummation, the coming together of the best win-win relationship. We therefore want to intensify our cooperation, as I said, and I also wish to point out that Kenya is Germany's most important trading partner in East Africa, while Germany ranks the top 10 of Kenya's export destinations. Kenyan exports to German market enter through third countries in the European Union, where specialized import and auction houses are well established. I must admit that there are challenges affecting trade between Kenya and Germany, which include a narrow product range, no value-added export products, and value disparities, fluctuation in world prices of agricultural products, especially coffee and tea, and use of subsidies that distort pricing and competitiveness and high standards set by the EU for agricultural products. I strongly believe that these challenges should not discourage us from highlighting the strengths of our countries as trading partners. The relations between our two countries have blossomed over the years, and we sincerely cherish the long-standing tradition of friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation that we have enjoyed ever since. Over the years, our steady bilateral relations have been underpinned by extensive political, economic, and social links. We have maintained vibrant political consultations and dialogue at political level through frequent high-level visits which have applied or amplified our bilateral relations, and they have been mentioned very ably by the speakers before me. Our cooperation at the social cultural level has been structured along the various intervention projects and programs implemented by German Society for International Cooperation, GIZ, and other implementing arms of the German technical cooperation. For example, Germany has offered to support the government of Kenya's youth agenda, specifically in its effort to curb the growing unemployment among our young people, promote sustainable economic development and encourage the growth of technical institutions in Kenya. In this regard, Germany has offered to support vocational and technical training with certain institutions established as centers of excellence. I am truly grateful that we are now exploring new avenues of how we can collaborate and synergize our curriculum in our TVET institution so that our skills and competencies are aligned to what is being taught in your great country, which is a great inspiration to many young people who are learning in our TVET institutions. They take Germany as the benchmark for best practice. This partnership has been positively and monumentally transformational. Over the last decade, the capacity of TVET institutions has grown to match rising demands for TVET by over 500%. Just to give you in numbers, 8 years ago, we had 90,000 TVET students in Kenya. Today, we have 500,000 students in TVET institutions. As a result, we are now closer to acquiring the necessary complement of technical skills for our leap into the league of diverse and competitive industrial economies. Our partnership is therefore a fundamental contribution to our aspirations for shared prosperity.
Climate change is making food security in the country more difficult. More than 4 million people are at the risk of hunger in your country, as we know. And your transforming agriculture is therefore a major issue and a major task also for German cooperation. You're leading the way in research into site-adapted crops, as well as plans for efficient irrigation on your fields. So at these fields we can work together and feed people. You're planning your own fertilizer production to reduce dependence on import. Germany can support you in all these areas with know-how, but also with private sector commitment. And I've seen some members of private companies here in this room. However, education is also a dominant issue. Every government must offer its young population a good perspective, especially when it's growing as fast as it is in Africa in total. In addition to basic education, this applies above all to vocational training. We are already cooperating in vocational training and youth employment. We want to strengthen these even more, also out of our parliament. And this is important for young people. Otherwise, they are an easy target for extremism and crime. Your country offers many opportunities for cooperation in vocational training, in renewable energies, in the production of tea, coffee, and other added values of agriculture. With this system of dual education, Germany can be a strong and reliable partner. Exchange programs for skilled workers or internships for young Kenyans in Germany could be a good way to learn from each other, and we have to do this much more than in the past. Kenya has already shown that it is our partner. In just 5 minutes in February, your UN ambassador made an impressive speech condemning Russian imperialism and clearly siding with Ukraine and with our values. And therefore, thank you for this speech. With which countries could we strengthen our cooperation if we don't do it with countries like yours? Countries that clearly oppose aggression and violence. This is our values. And that is also how I read your commitment in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There you are providing a part of the task force to pacify Eastern Congo and limit the influence of its immediate neighbors. Over 1,000 Kenyan soldiers are there with Burundian and Ugandan troops trying to stop the violence in the region. They have a robust mandate, putting them at the forefront of protecting civilians. This mission also must be appreciated and supported.